Sure enough, the young woman smiled apologetically and said, "Young lord, I'm afraid this deal cannot be completed." "Can't be completed?" Xianxia's eyes narrowed in annoyance as he asked coldly, "Is this offer not enough?" "Not at all." The young woman shook her head helplessly. "It's just that this mistress suddenly received orders from above saying that your heir cannot be redeemed. As for the specific reason, I'm afraid I cannot say anything more." When Xianyu heard this, her tender body couldn't help trembling slightly and her face went pale. She had just seen hope of freedom, yet now it had been mercilessly taken away. Xianxia's face was turned ugly and he directed a cold glare at the young woman opposite him, but upon seeing the look of embarrassment on her face, he quickly understood that this was not her doing, so becoming angry with her was useless. Taking a deep breath, he asked thoughtfully, "Did the message you received say that Lady Yuer cannot be redeemed or that no one can be redeemed? Is there a difference?" the young woman asked in surprise. "Just answer the question." Xianxia snorted. It seemed that because she had suddenly reneged on their agreement, this young woman felt somewhat embarrassed, so after pondering for a moment, she replied, "Only Yuer's name was mentioned. As for the others, nothing else was said." "Is that so?" Xianxia sneered deeply, a light flashing across his eyes before he continued, "I believe that there is no such thing in this world as a deal that cannot be reached, only prices that cannot be paid. If I were to pay another pill, do you think there'd be room to negotiate?" Having said this, Xianxia took out an exquisite jade bottle, held it tightly as a pained look appeared on his face for a moment before solemnly handing it to the young woman. The young woman, however, just smiled helplessly. "Young lord, please don't make things difficult for this mistress. Since the managers have already made a decision, this matter is really no longer within my ability to negotiate. Whether you can negotiate this matter or not, please take a look at this pill first. If you really aren't able to conclude this deal, I hope you can at least contact the person who sent you the message just now and ask him what price I need to pay." A trace of surprise flashed across this young woman's eyes as she said with some astonishment, "It seems that Yuer is truly important to young lord. It is definitely Yuer's blessing to be so appreciated by young lord." When she glanced over at Xianyu again, she couldn't help revealing a look of jealousy. Xianxia insisting on redeeming Xianyu like this clearly showed how much value she had to him. For a woman who lived in this kind of place, such care was undoubtedly extremely enviable. As a fellow woman, she could naturally empathize with this. So instead of refusing Xianxia again, she opened the small jade bottle and glanced inside. After seeing just what was inside, the casual expression on her face disappeared and was replaced with one of great shock. There was only one pill in this bottle, and it was round, white, and flawless. It exuded a very pleasant aura, and after sniffing it lightly, the young woman felt her mood quickly become calm. Immediately after, this young woman shot an amazed look at Xianxia, and seeing him smiling faintly at her, she didn't dare to act carelessly, pouring out the pill inside this bottle and examining it carefully. After a long time, she put the pill back into its bottle and let out a light sigh before turning an unusual look towards Xianxia. "Although this mistress doesn't know much about pills, would I be correct in assuming this is an extinguishing demon's pill?" "It seems your knowledge is quite good. It is indeed an extinguishing demon's pill." Xianxia nodded as his face twitched slightly as if he was distressed. "This is one of the best auxiliary pills for Saint King Realm cultivators who are attempting to break through to the Void Return Realm. It can even drive out heart demons. Although it is not as rare as the congealing Void Pill, its value is comparable." "Young lord, are you sure you want to use this treasure as collateral?" Xianxia shook his head. "It's not collateral, it's a bargaining chip. If you allow me to redeem Yuer, this extinguishing demon's pill will belong to your joyous union pavilion." A bargaining chip. A look of joy flashed across the young woman's face upon hearing this. Gritting her teeth, she declared, "Young lord, please wait a moment while I contact the managers to see if they are willing to release Yuer. To be honest, if it were up to me, this deal would have long ago been completed. It's just..." She smiled bitterly as she realized just how rare and valuable this extinguishing demon's pill was. Not daring to neglect, she quickly took out her communication artifact and poured her divine sense into it. While she was conversing with this unknown party, Xianxia's eyes flashed and he released a thread of his divine sense quietly to begin sweeping Joyous Union Pavilion. A moment later, besides the few places where there were particularly powerful spirit arrays and where there seemed to be void return masters sitting in meditation, Xianxia had probed the entire Joyous Union Pavilion. Not long afterwards, he obtained the information he wanted, and realizing his suspicions were correct, he snickered to himself before quietly withdrawing his divine sense, never once exposing anything on his face. Glancing over at the young woman opposite him, Xianxia saw her arguing strongly with the party on the other end, her expression quite stern. Obviously, she was unwilling to give up this extinguishing demon's pill. This was only reasonable though. An extinguishing demon's pill's usefulness was very much dependent on the situation. If a small heart demon appeared when a cultivator was trying to break through, there would be no need for this extinguishing demon's pill, but if they had a profound heart demon, this kind of pill would be invaluable. Having such a pill could greatly affect the success or failure of a cultivator breaking through. The extinguishing demon's pill Xianxia had put out was also something he had refined. He had prepared it for Xianxia and how and when the two of them were attempting to break through to the void return stage. But these two already had the 10,000-year incense Xianxia brought back from the flowing flame sand field, so they didn't face any influence from heart demons in the end. As such, Xianxia had saved this extinguishing demon's pill, and now it happened to come in handy. Xianxia also had a number of congealing void pills on him, but he wasn't foolish enough to bring these out. Congealing void pills and extinguishing demons pills were supposedly of equal value, but in reality the former was rarer and more precious. While the young woman continued to converse through her communication artifact, Xianxia put on an anxious expression. He had to take Xianyu away from here. It would be best if this deal could be concluded successfully, but if it couldn't, he could only use more forceful means, subduing this young woman and then immediately fleeing with Xianyu. Of course, if the situation devolved to such a point, he would be unable to remain in Black Crow City, so Xianxia would only use this method as a last resort. He didn't want to fall out with Joyous Union Pavilion. After all, strong dragons don't oppose local snakes. Not to mention, he was only a Saint King 2-layer while there were 3 Void Return Stage Masters guarding Joyous Union Pavilion. This establishment also seemed to be supported by the local city lord, so it was definitely not a place to be casually provoked. With a plan in mind, Xianxia's expression became indifferent as he secretly sent a message to Xianyu, telling her to quietly prepare herself. Sometime later, with an annoyed and somewhat dejected look on her face, the young woman put away her communication artifact and turned an apologetic look to Xianxia as she slowly shook her head. This mistress is really helpless. I don't know why, but the managers insist that your heir cannot be redeemed. Please give up, young lord. Xianxia slowly got up and nodded. Good, since that's the case, then I won't embarrass you any further. Just rest here for a while. Saying so, he flashed a fierce grin at the young woman. The young woman's heart clenched, but before she could react, a powerful pressure burst through her knowledge-seized defenses, causing her to suddenly become dizzy. At the same time, she saw that the young man opposite her flicker and reappear in front of her, his big hand reaching out towards her. The young woman was thoroughly shocked and wanted to resist, but immediately discovered she was unable to circulate her Saint Yuan at all. She was also a Saint King 2-layer, but when facing Xianxia, an opponent who was supposedly at the same level, she was unable to fight back at all. In the next instant, a scalding hot force poured into her body and quickly moved to form an ingenious seal which made it impossible for her to use any of her strength. The tender body of the young woman went limp as she became unable to even lift her fingers. Only her mouth was still able to move and she hastily called out, "Young lord, what is the meaning of this? If you dare act unruly in Joyous Union Pavilion, you won't have a good end." Xianxia grinned before snapping his fingers, causing the young woman to lose the ability to speak as well before he leisurely said, "I'll be taking her away with me, but I'll be leaving these items here as agreed." so your noble establishment won't suffer any kind of loss and instead will be making a big profit. As for your managers, I suggest you check carefully with them after you regain your freedom. Perhaps you'll find a little fool who was intentionally interfering with our transaction. And, after a thorough investigation, I'm certain you won't be punished. The young woman looked at Xianxia in surprise, not knowing what he was trying to reveal by saying these words. She wanted to ask for more details, but she was unable to open her mouth, so she could only watch the figures of Xianxia and Xianyu disappear from her field of vision. Feeling quite anxious, she forcibly urged a secret technique she had practiced to shatter one of her earrings. The moment the young woman's earring burst, Xianxia immediately noticed and his face changed greatly, shouting under his breath, "Let's go!" Saying so, he grabbed Xianyu's waist and tried to quickly escape from this place. "You want to go?" Suddenly, a tender voice with a hint of coldness rang out through the air. "You dare act dissolute in my joyous union pavilion? Don't even think of leaving." As these words fell, an invisible force suddenly enveloped Xianxia, making him feel as if the surrounding space had solidified, his body which had just leapt up into the air falling down in the next moment. Shit. Xianxia's eyes narrowed. It was not the first time he had experienced this power, so he was able to recognize it instantly. After landing, Xianxia immediately moved to put Xianyu safely behind him and looked towards a certain spot. On the other side of his vision stood a beautiful middle-aged woman in a light blue dress that tightly wrapped around her enchanting figure, a stark contrast to the cold, gloomy look on her pretty face. Seeing this middle-aged beauty, Xianyu's face changed drastically as she exclaimed, "Manager Lian." Hearing Xianyu's shout, Xianxia's face sank as he felt the situation had become quite troublesome. To be continued.